Kai pulled his heavy parka tighter around his shoulders as the wind howled outside. Snow swirled in thick, blinding clouds, and the ground beneath his boots was slippery ice. The Arctic-like planet had never been kind, but today it seemed especially cruel. Kai had been alone for days, tending to his small igloo settlement far from the main human colony. The other settlers had left him to monitor the outskirts of the region, where temperatures could drop to deadly lows in an instant. He stomped through the snow, his breath forming small clouds in the frozen air. Every step was careful, deliberate. A single misstep could mean falling into the jagged ice beneath or being caught in a drift. His gloved hands clutched a small tool kit, and his eyes constantly scanned the horizon. The sky was a dull gray, no sun in sight. The storm had left a bitter silence, broken only by the occasional gust of wind rattling against the igloo walls. As he neared the entrance of his igloo, something caught his eye, a small movement in the snow, almost like a flicker. Kai froze, squinting. At first, he thought it was just the wind playing tricks on his tired eyes. But then there it was again, unmistakable, a crawling figure struggling through the deep snow, leaving a trail behind. Kai's heart quickened. He had seen animals and he knew the dangers of local wildlife, but this was unlike anything he had encountered. The figure was small, fragile, yet it shimmered faintly, as though lit from within. The wind gusted harder, and he could see the figure shivering violently. His survival instinct screamed at him to stay inside and ignore it. Humans were fragile here. Helping unknown creatures could mean death. But something about the creature's movement, so desperate, so pleading, stirred a different feeling in him. Without fully thinking, Kai ran toward it. The snow reached his knees, and every step was exhausting, but he pressed on. The closer he got, the more he realized that this was not a human or a known animal. Its skin glowed faintly, a pale blue light that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Its limbs were slender, almost delicate, yet it pushed forward with determination, crawling inch by inch through the snow. When he reached it, Kai knelt down. The creature's face, or what he assumed was its face, looked at him with large, luminous eyes. It tried to make a sound, but only a soft, trembling hum emerged. The alien was freezing, and its body seemed to absorb the cold around it. Kai's mind raced. Bringing it inside could be dangerous, but leaving it out here was certain death. He made his choice. He scooped the creature up carefully. It was lighter than he expected, almost weightless in his arms. Its small limbs curled instinctively, seeking warmth. Kai ran back to his igloo, the snow crunching under his boots. The cold burned his cheeks, but he didn't slow down. As he approached the igloo, he felt a strange sensation. The creature's glow seemed to pulse faster, warmer. The moment they crossed the threshold, the igloo's interior flickered, lights dimming and then stabilizing as if responding to the alien's presence. Kai set the creature down on a pile of blankets. It curled into a tiny ball, trying to conserve heat. He could see the subtle changes in its skin as it absorbed warmth. The glow shifted from pale blue to a soft white, and Kai felt a mixture of awe and apprehension. He had read about alien species in theory, but this was real, right here in his igloo. He watched it for a while, unsure of what to do next. The creature's breathing, or whatever motion indicated life, was slow but steady. Kai realized he needed to communicate somehow. He rummaged through his supplies, finding a notebook and a pen. Tentatively, he sketched simple shapes, pointing to them and speaking softly. "Can you understand me? Are you hungry? Are you hurt?" The creature blinked its luminous eyes and emitted another hum, this time longer, almost rhythmic. Kai's stomach twisted with both fear and excitement. Was it trying to respond? Slowly, it lifted a small limb and traced a line in the snow-dusted blanket. The line formed a curve, then a sharp point, almost like a symbol. Kai's mind raced. He didn't understand, but it was clearly intelligent. Kai decided to give it a name. Names gave identity, connection, trust. He whispered, "Lyra," and pointed to the creature. It tilted its head, glowing slightly brighter. That was enough for Kai. Lyra it was. Over the next hour, Kai did what he could to warm Lyra. He built a small enclosure near the igloo's heater, wrapping blankets around her and using his own body heat to help. As she warmed, her glow intensified, flickering across the igloo's walls like soft light. Kai felt a strange comfort, almost as if her presence made the igloo less lonely. Night fell, though on this frozen planet, the concept of day and night was different. The wind outside screamed against the igloo walls, rattling them. Kai sat beside Lyra, exhausted but unable to sleep. He thought about the colony and the isolation of his assignment. He thought about how fragile humans were in this environment and yet how resilient they could be. And now Lyra was here, a strange being that might hold secrets beyond his understanding. Suddenly, a subtle vibration ran through the igloo floor. Kai looked down in surprise. Lyra's glow was pulsating in rhythm with the vibration. He reached out cautiously, and the moment his hand touched her, warmth spread through his fingers. Not just heat, energy. Kai realized with a mixture of awe and fear that Lyra's presence was affecting the igloo's systems. The heater stabilized, the lights brightened, and the temperature rose slightly. Kai leaned back, trying to process it. He had no idea what Lyra was capable of, but he knew this. She was alive, intelligent, and clearly needed him. The storm outside would rage for days, and if he wanted to survive, he couldn't leave her out in the cold. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could help him in ways he couldn't yet understand. Hours passed. Kai took turns checking the small enclosure, feeding Lyra minimal nutrients from his rations. Every time he looked at her, he noticed subtle changes, a flicker of intelligence in her eyes, a pattern in the glow, a reaction to his voice. She was learning, adapting, and perhaps trusting him. The isolation of the frozen world no longer felt so oppressive. With Lyra beside him, there was a new kind of hope. Kai thought about the colony, about survival, about the future. Humans had always faced adversity with ingenuity and courage. Now, faced with an alien being, he understood that survival might not be a solitary struggle anymore. As the night deepened, the storm outside intensified. Snow hammered against the igloo, and the wind howled like a living creature. Kai knew tomorrow would be difficult. He would need to repair sections of the igloo, ensure the colony's supplies remained safe, and figure out what Lyra truly was. But for now, he sat beside her, feeling the warmth radiate from her body and the quiet pulse of energy that seemed almost alive. In that moment, amidst the frozen world and the howling wind, Kai realized that the universe was larger and stranger than he had ever imagined. And somehow, in the middle of this icy wasteland, a fragile alien had crawled into his life, and with her, a chance for something extraordinary. The next morning, the storm outside had not eased. Snow fell thick and fast, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The wind gusts shook the igloo violently, making the walls creak. Kai woke early, rubbing his tired eyes, and immediately checked Lyra. She was awake, sitting upright in her small enclosure, her glow soft and steady. Somehow she had recovered overnight. Her skin shimmered with a faint blue hue, pulsing in rhythm with her breathing. Kai could not help but feel awe. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. He opened the flap of the igloo and peered out. The world was a frozen blur of white. The storm would last hours, maybe days. Supplies were limited and the igloo was fragile. Kai knew that even a minor collapse could be deadly. Yet he also knew that Lyra might change everything. The way her body emitted warmth, how the light seemed to stabilize the igloo, it was more than coincidence. Maybe, just maybe, she could help him survive. Kai returned to Lyra and spoke softly. "We need to stay safe today. The storm will be worse than yesterday." Lyra tilted her head, her eyes glowing brighter. She stepped forward cautiously, touching his arm with a small limb. Kai shivered as warmth spread through him, more than what the blankets or heater could provide. It was comforting, almost like an embrace. For a moment, he felt less alone, less afraid. He decided to try something new. He had small sensors and environmental monitors in the igloo, meant to track the weather and ice conditions. Kai set them on the table and gestured toward Lyra. "If you can, try touching these," he said, hoping she would understand. Lyra approached carefully, extending a thin, glowing limb. The moment her skin made contact with the monitors, the readings changed. The temperature stabilized, and the storm's pressure readings seemed to fluctuate less violently. Kai's jaw dropped. You're affecting the environment," he whispered. Lyra responded with a gentle hum and blinked her luminous eyes. She seemed aware of the effect she had, almost like she was experimenting. Kai felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. Humans had always relied on technology to survive in harsh environments, but Lyra showed that life could be powerful in ways technology could not match. Hours passed as the storm raged on. Kai worked to reinforce the igloo, patching weak spots and stacking extra snow blocks against the walls. Lyra followed, sometimes touching the walls or the ground. Each time she did, the igloo seemed sturdier. The snow outside shifted slightly, as if responding to her presence. Kai realized that she wasn't just warm, she could influence the physical environment. During a brief lull in the storm, Kai took a moment to rest. Lyra sat beside him, glowing softly. He studied her carefully. She had no hair, her limbs were thin and graceful, and her large eyes seemed to see more than he could. Despite her alien appearance, there was a certain elegance in her movements. She was intelligent, aware, and perhaps even curious about him. "Can you understand me?" he asked quietly. Lyra blinked in response. Slowly, she extended a limb and drew a series of patterns in the snow on the floor of the igloo. Kai leaned closer. The patterns resembled a map or maybe a sequence. He frowned. "Are you trying to tell me something?" Lyra's glow intensified, pulsing faster. He had no idea what it meant, but he sensed urgency. Something about the storm, the planet, or perhaps other dangers. She wanted him to understand. Kai decided to trust her instinct. He secured extra supplies and prepared for the worst. The storm was not just a natural hazard. He knew that ice shifts and snow collapses could trap or bury the igloo at any moment. With Lyra's subtle assistance, he reinforced weak points. The walls held firm, and the temperature remained tolerable. For the first time, he felt that he might actually survive the storm. As the hours passed, Kai noticed another change. Lyra's glow would brighten when she approached specific areas of the igloo. When she touched the heater, the warmth spread more efficiently. When she touched the floor near the door, the wind seemed to weaken slightly as it struck the flap. It was as if she could sense weaknesses in the environment and correct them instinctively. Kai marveled at her abilities. Humanity had learned to adapt with technology, but Lyra's presence showed that life itself could be its own survival tool. By midday, the storm had reached its peak. Snow whipped violently, and visibility was near zero. Kai heard the distant sound of cracking ice. He frowned. The terrain outside was dangerous. If the igloo collapsed or the ice shifted too much, they could be trapped. He looked at Lyra. She seemed to sense the danger. Her glow pulsed rapidly, almost like a heartbeat racing. She moved toward the walls and touched them carefully. The snow around the igloo seemed to settle slightly, and the walls held firm. Kai could not believe what he was witnessing. Hours dragged on. Kai and Lyra worked together in an unspoken partnership. He reinforced the igloo, rationed their limited food, and kept her comfortable, while she stabilized the structure, manipulated heat, and seemed to read the environment in ways Kai could not. Despite the alien nature of her abilities, there was an unmistakable intelligence guiding her actions. She was not a threat, she was a partner in survival. Late in the afternoon, the storm showed no signs of stopping. Kai worried about the rest of the settlement. The other human igloos were further down the ridge, isolated and vulnerable. Without intervention, they could be destroyed by snowdrifts or ice collapse. Kai realized that he might not be able to help them alone, but perhaps with Lyra's abilities they could be saved. He spoke softly to her. "I need to protect the others. Can you help me?" Lyra blinked, then approached the map she had drawn in the snow earlier. She traced paths leading from their igloo to others in the settlement. It was clear she understood the layout. Kai's heart raced. With her guidance, he might be able to reach other humans safely, even in this storm. Carefully, Kai packed essential supplies, blankets, food, and tools. He gestured to Lyra, who followed without hesitation. Together, they moved through the storm. The wind was relentless, but with her assistance, the journey was manageable. Lyra's glow provided a faint light, cutting through the white blur. More importantly, the temperature around them seemed slightly warmer, and snow did not accumulate as quickly where she moved. They reached the first igloo. Kai knocked lightly on the door. A human voice responded, weak and frightened. "Kai, is that you?" Kai smiled, relief washing over him. "We need to move carefully. Follow me." He gestured to Lyra, who remained close. The other humans watched in awe as her glow stabilized the area, making it safer to move. One by one, they guided the residents to Kai's reinforced igloo. It was exhausting, dangerous work, but Lyra's abilities made it possible. Every time Kai thought they were at risk, she would intervene, manipulating heat or light in subtle ways that stabilized their path. By evening, all nearby humans were safely inside. Exhausted but alive, they huddled together, sharing warmth and minimal rations. Kai finally allowed himself a moment of rest. He looked at Lyra, who sat nearby, glowing softly. He felt gratitude and wonder. The storm had been relentless, almost unbearable, yet with her help they had survived. Humans had always adapted to harsh environments, using ingenuity and technology, but today Kai realized something deeper. Life itself, intelligent, aware, and compassionate, was perhaps the greatest tool for survival. The humans in the igloo murmured among themselves, speaking of their astonishment and relief. Some were frightened by Lyra's alien appearance, but most were in awe of her abilities. Kai knew that trust would take time, but for now, survival was paramount. With Lyra beside them, they had a chance to endure the storm and continue living on this harsh planet. Night fell again, darker than before. The storm continued, but Kai felt a sense of hope he had not known before. Lyra curled into a small ball, her glow dimming gently as if resting. Kai watched her, understanding that this fragile alien had changed everything. Humanity might survive here not just with technology, but through empathy, trust, and cooperation with beings beyond their understanding. Hours later, as he finally drifted into a light sleep, Kai felt the warmth of Lyra nearby. Outside, the storm raged, but inside the igloo there was life, hope, and the quiet knowledge that together they could endure almost anything. For the first time in weeks, Kai allowed himself a small smile. The universe was vast and strange, but perhaps, just perhaps, humans were not alone in finding ways to survive. The storm finally began to ease as dawn approached. The furious winds that had battered the igloo for days slowed to gentle gusts, and the snow that had fallen relentlessly started to settle into smooth, sparkling drifts. Kai rubbed his tired eyes and looked outside. The landscape was transformed. A thick white blanket covered the ground, making every tree, every rock, and every ridge appear soft and strange. Despite the beauty, he knew the storm had left danger behind. Ice sheets had shifted unpredictably, and parts of the settlement might be damaged or buried. Kai turned to Lyra. She was awake, her glow a calm, steady blue. Her large eyes blinked slowly as if she too was taking in the new world after the storm. Kai could feel her energy even from a distance, a subtle warmth that made the cold less biting. He felt gratitude and awe. This fragile alien had helped them survive one of the harshest storms the planet had ever known. But there was still work to do. He packed supplies for the day, blankets, tools, and minimal rations, and called the other humans together. They had survived the storm together, but the planet's challenges were far from over. Kai looked at their faces, weary but determined. "We need to check the rest of the settlement," he said. "There may be damage. We can't leave anyone behind." The humans nodded, some glancing at Lyra with nervous curiosity, others with admiration. Lyra moved beside Kai, her glow brightening slightly as if understanding the urgency. As they stepped outside, the snow crunched under their boots. The temperature was still below freezing, but Lyra's presence seemed to create a bubble of warmth that made the walk easier. She moved with grace, her limbs delicate but strong. Kai followed her lead, trusting her instincts in a landscape that had proven unpredictable. The first igloo they approached was intact, but Kai noticed that snow had piled dangerously high against the walls. Using a small shovel, he began clearing the entrance while Lyra hovered nearby. As soon as her glow touched the snow, it seemed to melt slightly, softening the hard layers and making the work easier. Kai realized that her abilities were not just passive. They could actively shape the environment, helping humans manipulate a world that was often hostile. Inside the igloo, the occupants were safe but frightened. The storm had kept them trapped for hours, and many were exhausted. Kai reassured them, explaining that they would work together to check the rest of the settlement. Lyra emitted a soft hum, and the humans instinctively felt calmer. It was as if her presence carried a message. "You are safe." As they moved to the next igloo, Kai noticed something remarkable. Lyra seemed to sense weak points in the snow and ice. She paused, touching the ground with a small limb, and the ice shifted subtly, redirecting snow away from a fragile structure nearby. Kai watched, amazed. Her awareness of the environment was far beyond anything he had seen in humans or animals. It was as if she could read the planet itself, understanding its dangers and acting to prevent them. The day wore on. Kai and Lyra, along with the other humans, worked tirelessly to check each igloo. Some had minor damage, others had been almost completely buried under snowdrifts. Every time they approached a precarious structure, Lyra's glow would intensify. She touched the walls, the snow, even the air around them, and the igloo would stabilize. The humans began to see her not as an alien, but as a partner, someone whose abilities could be trusted and respected. By midday, they had checked most of the settlement. Only one area remained, a cluster of igloos further up the ridge, where the snow had drifted into towering walls. Kai knew this part would be dangerous. The ice was unstable, and even a single misstep could trigger a collapse. He turned to Lyra. "This is the hardest part," he said. "We have to be careful." She responded with a slow blink and moved ahead, guiding the way. The wind picked up again, though it was nothing compared to the previous days. Snow swirled in the air, making visibility difficult. Kai held onto Lyra's energy, feeling the warmth and subtle vibration that seemed to guide them. It was almost as if she could predict where the snow would shift next, where the ice was weak, and where they should step to stay safe. They reached the first igloo of the cluster, and Kai immediately noticed a small crack in the wall. It was minor, but in the storm, it could have been disastrous. Lyra touched the surface, and the crack seemed to glow briefly before sealing itself. Kai felt his jaw tighten in awe. "You saved it," he whispered. Lyra blinked and emitted a soft hum as if acknowledging the compliment. They continued carefully, igloo by igloo. Some were completely covered in snow, requiring Kai and the humans to dig them out. Lyra hovered near the entrances, her glow melting the snow and creating safe paths. The work was exhausting, but by late afternoon, every igloo in the settlement had been checked and secured. Every human was accounted for, alive and safe. Kai felt a surge of relief. They had survived the storm, thanks in large part to Lyra's abilities and their combined efforts. As they returned to Kai's reinforced igloo, the sun finally broke through the clouds. The world outside sparkled with ice crystals, and the storm's fury was a memory. Kai looked at Lyra, sitting calmly on the snow outside, her glow reflecting the sunlight. He realized something profound. Humans had always relied on tools, technology, and sheer determination to survive. But today, they had also relied on trust, empathy, and cooperation with a being beyond their understanding. That, perhaps, was what made them truly resilient. Inside the igloo, the humans gathered around a small fire, sharing food and warmth. Kai sat beside Lyra, who curled gently, her glow illuminating the small space. The humans spoke in hushed tones about what they had witnessed, the storm and the aliens' remarkable abilities. Some were still wary, but most were in awe. Kai knew that trust would grow over time. For now, survival and understanding were enough. Kai spoke softly to Lyra. "You helped us survive. You showed us that life, even from another world, can be part of our journey." Lyra responded with a slow pulse of her glow, almost like a heartbeat. It was enough. Kai did not need words to understand her. They had faced the storm together, and together they had overcome it. As evening fell, Kai looked at the settlement through the igloo's small window. The snow was quiet, the wind gentle. Humans moved carefully between igloos, checking supplies, repairing minor damage, and sharing warmth. The settlement was alive, not just because of human resilience, but because of the cooperation they had learned that day. Kai felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity had faced adversity before, but today they had done so with the help of an alien being, bridging worlds in a shared struggle for survival. Lyra moved closer, her glow softening as she rested near Kai. He could feel her warmth, her subtle energy radiating through the igloo. It was a comfort he had not felt in weeks of isolation. The storm had tested them, pushed them to the limits, and now, in the calm after the storm, there was a sense of accomplishment, relief, and wonder. Kai thought about the future. Lyra had shown abilities that humans had never seen. Perhaps she could teach them, guide them, or even help them survive other dangers on this harsh planet. The possibilities were endless. But more importantly, Kai realized that the universe was full of unknown life, and humanity's strength lay not just in technology or survival skills, but in empathy, courage, and the ability to cooperate with those unlike themselves. Night came and the stars shone brightly above the frozen landscape. Kai looked out over the settlement, seeing small lights from each igloo. The storm was gone, but its memory remained, a reminder of the challenges they had faced. He felt a quiet satisfaction. They had survived. They had endured, and they had done so together. Lyra shifted slightly, her glow pulsing gently. Kai placed a hand on the blanket beside her, feeling the warmth and energy she radiated. It was a silent bond, a connection beyond words. Humanity had proven its resilience once again, and in this frozen world, an alien ally had shown them that survival could also mean understanding, trust, and unity. Kai closed his eyes, finally allowing himself to rest. Outside, the world was silent and peaceful. The storm had passed, leaving behind a transformed landscape, one that seemed less threatening and more full of possibilities. He knew that challenges would come again. This planet was harsh, and life was never easy. But with allies like Lyra, with humans willing to adapt, trust, and cooperate, he felt certain that they could face whatever the universe would throw at them. Hours later, Kai awoke to a faint light. Lyra was moving gently, her glow brighter now, reflecting the first rays of dawn. She stepped toward the igloo's entrance and Kai followed. Outside, the settlement was bathed in a soft, sparkling light. The snow glistened like diamonds, the ice shone with a pale blue glow, and the air was crisp and clear. Humans were already beginning their day, checking supplies, sharing warmth, and talking quietly. Kai watched as Lyra moved among them, her glow touching the ground, the walls, and even the air. The humans smiled, some reaching out cautiously to touch her glow, feeling warmth and reassurance. Kai realized that what they had experienced together was more than survival. It was a beginning, an opportunity for humans to learn, to adapt, and to grow alongside a being from another world. Kai felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity had survived the storm. They had endured hardships that might have seemed insurmountable. And through it all, they had done so not alone but with cooperation, understanding, and trust. The world was still harsh, the planet still dangerous, but the future had never felt more promising. He looked at Lyra one last time. Her glow pulsed gently, a quiet reminder of the bond they shared, of the strength that came from empathy and cooperation. Humanity had faced the storm and prevailed, and with allies like her, there was no challenge too great. The frozen world was no longer just a place of danger, it was a place of hope, resilience, and the possibility of extraordinary survival. Kai took a deep breath, feeling the cold air fill his lungs. The storm was over. The settlement was safe. And humanity, with courage, ingenuity, and unexpected allies, had once again proven that they could endure, adapt, and thrive in even the harshest conditions the universe could offer.